All right, greetings to everyone. May I hope you're all well and in good condition today. Anyways, may I ask of your time to listen to my sharing about the issues in teaching the macro skills, reading and writing, and of course, grammar. And this is actually a reaction to Barnard's perspective on current issues in English language education. I am Grace Basilisco, a student of PhD program, and would like to share to you few information about the issues in teaching reading and writing. I do not own everything in a discussion, but rather have observed and met issues in teaching reading and writing to students and bring them together and bring them and bring these issues in the table. So as you can see in the screen, there are triangles, which comes in different sizes, but remains to have three angles. So as this discussion is grounded on three questions, such as for number one, when is the right time to teach the skills? Second, what method should be employed to teach reading and writing? Third, who has the authority to teach the skills reading and writing, the native or the non-native? And so to start with, allow me to share to you a story of a grade 6 student with 18 classmates in a private school. The grade 6 teacher asks her to read the story of Mrs. Ruiz aloud, a story of patriotism and a love of country. The student pronounced the word Ruiz as ruse, and so his classmates and the teacher corrected immediately the student. The correct method is used to reinforce the student in learning the word Ruiz. Probably the student just met the word. This could mean that there is lack of reading exposure prior to activity they had, or maybe he was absent during the reading session in the lower years, right? Another story is about a 4-year college student who is about to graduate his degree from his degree in English about 2 months after, and who is a part-time teacher and has a Korean student raised in Hong Kong but studied college in Russia. The student is in advanced level. There was a time that they were both watching a movie with subtitles. Along the way, the student asks how to pronounce ANTI, such as ANTI freeze in a sentence. Use ANTI freeze to protect the car's engine. Or ANTI biotic in a sentence. For example, the doctor gave me an ANTI biotic to fight my cold. All right. The 4-year student confidently said it is anti, but the student refuses to believe, and so he looks for another or for the correct pronunciation in the internet and found out that it is pronounced as anti. All right. The teacher undoubtedly agrees to the word anti. In this case, both anti and anti are accepted. The meaning is just the same, which is the opposition or against of something. And the spelling is just the same. However, it differs in pronunciation, which speaks of British and American accent. At this level, supposedly, the fourth-year student should have known that English pronunciation varies in accent and could have the product of politics of language. All right, so the reading of the subtitle is actually or was actually used to aid English language learning, but apparently the teacher lacks professional experience and awareness on language varieties of which should have mastered and become ready to enter to the workforce. Okay, so all these stories led to the or lead to the discussion of issues in teaching the macro skills, reading and writing, and of grammar. Let me share to you these basic concepts first in reading. What is reading? How should it be done? And what attributes should someone must possess so that he can be a proficient reader? Reading actually is a skill, a cognitive process that involves decoding of symbols to arrive at meaning, which can be done silently or aloud. One must possess the following attributes then. One, he has good visual memory. The children with good visual memory actually can remember the letter sounds, numerals, whole words, nursery rhymes, lines in school plays, songs, hymns, and many more. So these children need to practice in just a few times. Okay, another attribute is A child should have a good auditory skill. That means that children need to hear the sounds of the word being spoken, such as the word, such as in the word grace for the letters GRACE. So if the children have good visual memory and good auditory sound, then with constant practice, the words are properly recognized and pronounced. However, more often, those children with poor memory relatively have poor auditory skills and that experience reading difficulties. Reading difficulties actually can be a product of reading problems and reading disorders. Common reading problems are below average in decoding and spelling and poor in oral vocabulary and listening comprehension. Okay, so this is actually caused by reading disorder, or for some, mostly it's caused by reading disorder. Common to all ages are what we call dyslexia, which affects a child's ability to decode word sounds, and ASD, which is actually a developmental disorder that can affect how the brain understands speech sounds. Okay, so all these prevailing problems in reading must be assessed and laid with solutions to develop the skill in reading as children progress. Furthermore, reading language experts found out that there are actually three kinds of developmental reading disabilities that a reader may experience. Number one is what we call the phonological deficit. What is this phonological deficit? This is implicating a core problem in the phonological processes system of oral language. It manifests as difficulties in speech perception tasks such as syllable discrimination, or we call this rhyme judgment, and speech production tasks such as word or non-word repetition. Okay. Another one is orthographic processing deficit, or we call it as processing speed, affecting speed and accuracy of printed word recognition, or we call it usually as naming speed problem or fluency problem. Okay. The third one is what we call comprehension deficit, often coinciding with the first two types of problems, but specifically found in children with social linguistic disabilities like ASD, vocabulary weaknesses, generalized language learning disorders, and learning difficulties that actually affect abstract reasoning and logical thinking. But the thing is, can these phonological comprehension orthographic processing deficits can be eliminated? All right, so there are actually possibilities that we can treat all of these things. Phonological deficit, we can teachers should recommend to parents to see speech language pathologists. They focus heavily on the increasing of a child's awareness to the speech errors, practicing correct pronunciation or production of sounds by watching speech therapist mouth, using, for example, a mirror to watch. It could be touching of the face and mouth at times to help shape the mouth. All right. It orthographic processing deficit can also be eliminated through orthographic mapping. This actually involves the formation of letter sound connections to bond the spellings, pronunciations, and meanings of specific words in memory. It explains how children learn to read words by sight, to spell words from memory, and to acquire vocabulary words from print. Okay, so how about comprehension deficits? Comprehension deficit can be corrected through comprehension monitoring strategies. What is this strategy? So, such example is to identify where the difficulty occurs and what the difficulty is, and then restate the difficult sentence or passage in their own words. Next to Next is to look back through the texts and then look for information that might help them to resolve the difficulty. Okay, so unlocking difficult, vocabularies here can be very helpful. All right. So this time we'll talk about writing. What is this writing? Is it a skill? Is How can this be done? What are the attributes or what are the difficulties or issues in writing? Okay, writing actually is a skill and it is a process of decoding sound symbols, creating characters in words and sentences to phrases and paragraphs, and then from decoding the codes to rewriting, revisiting, and proofreading until generating a coherent output. Unfortunately, it is the least practiced with among other macro skills, but it is actually vital for survival. Okay, so what are the attributes in writing? Number one is writing is systematic because you have to follow certain criteria such as well chosen ideas, well laden and logical, well laden and logical organization of thoughts, well chosen words, sentence fluency, and conventions of grammar. Okay, so another thing is writing is a tedious task because you have to read and conceptualize in the mind before you can write. Okay, so by which a challenge to all of us nowadays, engaging our students into reading and writing. Sadly, there are teachers who are neglecting the teaching of writing for some reasons. Number one, it takes time. Okay, from teaching to practice to checking the works and then evaluating the whole process of writing. It takes time. Okay. However, when teachers spare 15 to 20 minutes in a day for teaching and practice of the scale writing, then probably there is the love of writing from the students. Okay. So another thing we have to consider is or are the difficulties in writing. Most of the students actually nowadays are not exposed to reading, resulting to lack of vocabulary, poor spelling, poor orientation on grammar, rules, and conventions. It is a skill that is least practiced due to longer time consumption, to be honest. However, when the student is exposed to writing, then expressing one's thoughts and making assertions through writing become easy. Okay. Another thing that you have to consider, or I would like to show to you, are the developmental ways in learning. So as teachers, we have to do it. We can do it. What are the things that we have to do in order to develop the learning in writing? Number one, actually, is we have to create an environment conducive to the practice of writing. Okay, where they can focus and freely express their opinions. There must be corrective feedback to assist confusions and aid the writing process. Okay, next is preparing students to write, which means activating prior knowledge and making sure students have the opportunity to think about what they already know before the task begins. This can be done through accomplishing graphic organizers, cooperative learning, read alouds, and group discussions. Graphic organizers, to be specific, can be used as visual tools for students to write or draw what they already know about the subject, for example, in the genre of informational or persuasive writing. Okay, from this perspective or from this activity, teachers can then evaluate whether further instruction is needed. So this is where read alouds, cooperative learning, and group discussions come into play. If needed, as hand-selected text can be utilized in order to provide additional background information, which can lead to a group discussion. Okay, so cooperative learning also is a great strategy to help students gain more background knowledge. In what way? Students may collect information from books, from the internet, or from each other as they work together with one another. Okay, so the next thing is scaffolding instruction. We all know of scaffolding. It means to which teachers can build upon a student's strength to support a foundation. Okay, so they should be contextual, social, and temporary frameworks used to support successful learning with specific academic domains such as writing. How to do scaffolding? First is to inquire to have background knowledge of the subject. It's basic. After activating prior knowledge, the instructor then models drafting the type of writing as expected. Okay? Students and teacher then can participate in shared writing where the students have significant input into the topic, sentence usage, and many more. So they are then given the opportunity to write collaboratively with one or more other students to produce one piece of writing. So from there, they might be ready for independent writing, which is actually the ultimate goal of the scaffolding process. All right. Number four is what we call technology. Using e-journals, much like composition notebook, gives students a safe venue for expressing their ideas without having to worry about handwriting or spelling mistakes. This technique hones their vocabulary skills and gives them an opportunity to receive written feedback from an instructor, which is actually in turn aids in reading proficiency. So see, another method among many is using online discussion boards. With this approach, students can communicate with one another as well as the teacher, receive peer feedback, and practice conversational skills, all the while putting complete thoughts together in a form of typed sentences. Okay, so this time let us go back to the questions presented a while ago, which are number one, we have um, written when is the right time to teach the skill. What method should be employed to teach reading and writing? Who has the authority to teach the skills reading and writing, the native or the non-native? So let us take these questions one by one. Number one question is, when is the right time to teach the skills reading and writing skills? So according to or anchoring on critical period hypothesis, which speaks of teaching the macro skills in a first few years of life, can eliminate reading and writing difficulties because during the early stages of learning, pupils or students are exposed and practice the skills. That is why my salute to all grade 1 teachers out there who I believe have the most crucial part in teaching the macro skills. They always make sure our learners or the learners should know how to pair sound letters, produce words, and many more. So that's basic, but this is very important. That is why Barnard's highlighted the importance of teaching reading during early stages of learning. Now, what are the activities when we are going to do or practice reading and writing during critical period hypothesis? That can be fun and exciting. All right. I will be presenting five, just five, but there are a lot. Number one activity is what we call books and babies. Babies. When reading, you may vary the tone of the voice when different characters in the stories, sing nursery rhymes, make funny faces, do whatever special effects that you want to stimulate baby's interests. Okay, allow the child to touch and hold cloth and sturdy cardboard books while reading. That's part. Second one is poetry in motion. When children act out a good poem, they learn to love its rhyme, rhythm, and then the picture paint it in with a few well chosen words. So they grow as readers by connecting the feelings with the written word. So see, there is still learning. Number four or number three, we have weekly TV shows. Television can be a very good tool or great tool for education. The keys to successful TV viewing are actually number one, setting limits, making good choices, taking time to watch together, discussing what you view, and encouraging follow up reading. Number four, we have World of Words. This can be done by hanging posters of the alphabet on the bedroom walls or making an alphabet poster with the child, and then print the letters in large type. Capital letters are usually easier for the young children to learn first. That is why our graders classroom or classrooms of the elementary years are full of words around. Just this is actually to magnify that there is this effect of using the world of words in practicing reading and writing. Okay, another one or the fifth one is what we call write on. Now we have holidays, celebrations, even ordinary days. So we can use a chalkboard or a family message board as an exciting way to involve children in writing with a purpose, even during birthdays and other special occasions like Thanksgiving, graduation, recognition of siblings in schools, and many more occasions or other celebrations. Another is respond to the content of children's writing and don't be overly concerned with misspellings. Okay, over time you can help your child or you can help your sibling concentrate on learning to spell correctly. Okay, so all of these are just few activities which can be done at home. In fact, Lecona in 1996 in his Moral Education Theory highlights the role of parents in learning and should start at home. The learning can be a product of mimicry or mimicry and adherences from parents, which primarily need to educate the parents, such as conducting seminar and workshop that is to assist and assess the learning of their children. We cannot get rid of the reality that there is the important role of parents as well as in teaching reading and writing. Okay, so this second, another strategy that the teacher could use is to use the different sight words. These are implied or these can be integrated in a different selections. Okay, another question or the next question is, what method should be employed to teach reading and writing? For Barnard, actually, in his paper, he would like to point out that the use of TBM in practicing the language, or we call it as tasks-based language teaching, or also known as tasks-based instruction. This actually focuses on the use of authentic language and on asking students to do meaningful tasks using the target language. Such tasks include visiting a doctor, for example. It could be a dentist during checkup, allowing the child to talk about what happened during the visit, or going to somewhere and allowing the child to read what are the instructions given, and conducting an interview about a favorite anime, or calling customer service for help. So those experiences that make them interested and which are real life scenarios. Okay. But for universities, we have competency-based education, which is defined as an approach that allows students to upgrade on their ability to master a skill or competency at their own pace, regardless of environment, that is tailored to different learning abilities and can lead to more efficient student outcomes. This is to make them ready to enter into the workforce, such as conducting mock interviews, bringing with them their application paper and resume. So again, TBL or TBLT is focusing on the use of authentic language to do meaningful tasks. For CBLT or competency based language teaching, this is actually the mastery of the skills in reading and writing. Okay, so for the third question, who has the authority to teach the skill, reading and writing, the native or the non-native? Personally, I trust authorities in hiring English teachers. I mean, the hiring process and officers under Human Resource Office. They might not be an English speakers and teachers, but actually they follow certain criteria, conducted rigid screening, considering professional achievements and skills of, performances of the applicants. So I don't think there is a problem whether a native or non-native speaker, which actually construed with what Barnard is highlighting. Both can teach the skills. It is just that native speaker can produce an authentic model of pronunciation for the learners to imitate and to act as the cultural mediators, and their accent and pronunciation are considerably the standards. So in this case, it becomes an argument between linguistic and communicative competence. If the target or objective is to hone the basic skill or to hone the basic skills, then it must be linguistically oriented task-based activities. However, if the purpose of learning the language is for communication, then whether knowledge to the field, either native or non, then they can teach the skill. Okay. Another point that I wanted to raise is about the politics of language. Apparently English language speakers may have different variety of English language orientation, which may lead to different connotation and create the communication gap. Well, the purpose then of communication, which is to understand and to be understood, will be defeated then if there is communication gap. Okay, it is high time to call for stakeholders to work as one for the learners, creating extension projects such as literacy in the new media in the locality and many more. Aside from recognition of words, reading requires comprehension, which can be developed through immersing into different, speaking communities with the same linguistic background. By then, writing skills may develop and that of grammar. Okay, so there are other external factors that we can consider that whether it is native or non-native, but as long as the idea there that the instruction and the teaching, and there must be a practice time for both reading and writing. Okay, external factors include parental indifferences. We all know that parents are coming from different familial backgrounds or social status. Unreadiness of students. Probably the students or the learners are not ready yet to learn the skills, reading and writing. So what should the teacher do is to motivate, to unlock the vocabularies and do something that makes them interests, so as they can be able to meet halfway. Okay, it could be a lack of professional experience. Okay, maybe a teacher needs more trainings and seminars on how to strategize his teaching, his techniques in dealing with teaching the skills. All right, or it could be that there are what we call student absenteeism. There are learners who loves to absent, and there is no opportunity for them to grow or to learn the skill, and other external factors. That's another research. Okay, but for Licona, he wanted to emphasize that moral education theory and something to do with the attitude and of the learning of the student, that parents has some or have a great responsibility on this matter. Same with I'm getting this study to support the idea of teaching reading and writing, that parents should have a big role also in cultivating their interests in learning the skills, reading and writing. All right. So, in conclusion, reading and writing are lifelong learning skills, which may contribute to achieve sustainable development goals, wherein states, universities, and colleges are encouraged by the Commission on Higher Education to create programs to education for sustainable development. So, in this time of survival and resiliency, learning reading and writing can be done at home, which teaching the skills can be easier and long lasting. Learners are immersed to different webinars and podcasts, and the submission of outputs requires writing skills, eyeing on well laid in grammar rules. So, this is the kind of approach which is actually implied, which most learners often neglect, yet functional and transformational. So there must be feedbacking activity to remind the submission, and in this way, gadgets may help to set schedule for the learning abilities or activities. And in this view, the teaching of reading and writing, and of course the grammar, are not solely responsible for teachers. Learners are still the catalyst of their learning. What the teacher can do is to create opportunities to practice the skills. So in this way, they will be equipped with lifelong survival skills and is ready to enter the workforce. So once again, thank you very much for listening. And wherever you are, whoever you are with, Pinkanunay. Bye, everyone.